A very good evening and a warm welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us. We're coming to you live from the Kampala Serena Conference Center NTV Uganda studios. My name is Josephine Karanji, and in the studio with me is Mr. Ronald Mokasa, who is a financial literacy coach. And I wanted us to have a conversation on money. At some point, I think it's always important to constantly reevaluate how we are handling our money, what we are doing with it, how we are talking about it, and what we're not doing with it. So thank you for taking the time to join us in the studio.
Thank you, Josephine. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and it's good to have you in this capacity
Yes.
in the studio. For us to start our conversation, first of all, I want to get a sense of, we knew that with the period of COVID-19, a lot of people lost jobs, and we had that conversation with you as well. A lot of people lost jobs, but a lot of things are still happening even now, a year down the road. And I wanted you to give us a picture of what you see happening right now.
Yeah, I think as you've rightly put it, last year was quite a tough year, especially at a family level, at an individual level. There are sectors which haven't yet even come out of that situation. Hotels, the hospitality sector has not fully rebooted. Schools have partly started.
Schools are closing.
Yes,
now.
yes.
I went to pick. They were giving homework at a point,
Yes.
you know, for pre-primary and primary and other classes. I went to pick homework for my nephew, and the headmistress told me, Josephine, we're going to close because they're not really going to open early childhood centers right now.
Yes, yes.
And we can't keep open. We can't survive. We can't pay the bills. We can't. So there's that as well.
Yeah, and I think the point is that all these decisions have families, they have individuals behind them. And usually the situation is, I think a lot of last year we were all keeping the hope alive that start of next year things will reactivate. This is April, and we are not seeing them reactivating. From the look of things. It may go for another 6 months. So at a household and individual level, you find that when it comes to your personal finances, you have been hit hard. And I think many times when you're hit hard, there are two choices. You can remain lying down, or you can pick yourself up and accept the situation. And I think a lot of, especially given the way it happened, that there were sectors which were safe. I mean, one of the things which was said about teachers is that worst case scenario, you will always teach. You may not like your salary, but you will always have a job. But we're seeing that many of them are in a situation where they don't have that stable income which they used to have. So I think that most of us as individuals, as families, we're going through a time where we need to make tough decisions. And these tough decisions are in the way we arrange our finances. We're going to have to rethink them. Families where both of you are working and you have remained with one income, you have to rethink and ask yourself, how can I be able to fit within this income? Some people have kept their jobs, but at a pay cut. You are getting $1 million, now you are getting 500. You need to rethink and say, how can I be able to fit within this? However, I think when such things happen, many times as human beings, when we snap out of it, we start asking ourselves, how are we going to get out of this situation? And I think we have seen a lot of activity in terms of people just trying to pick themselves up. It's fascinating how many online businesses have come up. Every friend who you knew who wasn't running anything will send you a WhatsApp message and say, you know what, by the way, I sell flowers, I sell flower pots, I am doing produce, I have a cavera of Irish potatoes for you here. So there is a bit of momentum, and I think it is the human reaction, and in my opinion, the right reaction to this situation. It is what we are supposed to be doing now. How do we pick ourselves out of this situation?
You spoke about schools, and something came to mind. So you have a lot of children who've not been going to school, even the ones who are going back now, but then you still have a cluster that's going to be at home for I don't know how long. Their parents have given up on the idea of this money is for school fees. So that money has gone into survival or the business or something. And eventually, one day, they're going to open up. What would you tell them about how to practically, not leaving aside the other things they need to deal with, but to practically keep in mind that one day you're going to need to pay school fees. And this is, one way to think about preparing for that day.
Yeah, I think one of the things which every time we're going through crisis, one of the challenges is that there is a term used, catastrophizing, which is a process of you think about this issue, you enlarge it to a point where it is all you think about. So sometimes there is a feeling that these children, possibly that day they will go back to school, won't come, but it may come. I mean, for a number of children, there are some who went back a couple of weeks ago. Within another month, a few others will be going back. So you need to appreciate that you shouldn't put yourself in a position where you forget that these responsibilities actually exist. And you need to ask yourself, I need to be putting aside a bit of money for the school fees which are coming in June, because they are coming. And you will find that if at one point one salary had the capacity to be able to pay school fees, now you have to save a bit more and put aside a bit of money for a couple of months to be able to pay for one school fees payment. So we need to get into that mode. And I think that the best way to actually do it is to look at what you'd call, just draw up an annual budget for 2021 and say, these are the responsibilities I have. They are daily responsibilities I have. I have income which I am supposed to get in every month. Rather, I have food to buy, I have airtime to buy, I have transport to spend on. And then I also have these responsibilities. They are coming within a couple of months, but they are part of the annual budget, so that you can clearly see that every month for the next 9 months, I'm going to need averagely 1.5 million. Now, if you're earning 500,000, after you look at the budget, it shows you a clear picture of the situation which you're in, and that helps you make the decisions which you need to make. You need to ask yourself, all right, where is this extra million going to come from? What am I going to do to be able to bring it in? Is there anything I can cut out of my expenses to be able to do that? But many times when we're in this situation, you are dealing with the crisis at the door. So if your landlord comes and tells you you haven't paid rent for 2 months, you deal with the crisis of the landlord. Then umeme comes in, and then you also deal with the crisis of umeme. But you haven't kind of drawn a big picture. So one of the key things which we can practically do, if you are running your finances as an individual, you look at them and you sit down tonight and actually write out and say, these are the expenses which I have for the next 9 months. This is the total figure. If you are family, both of you sit down and ask yourself, how can I be able to draw a clear picture? Knowing where you are clearly is important. Most of us don't even know how deep the hole we are in is. And many times whenever you tell people that you write out a budget, they will tell you, but then I'll find out the depth of the hole. It creates a new problem. Now I know. And I think we need to get into the mode of, how do we actually discover clearly? Usually when we go through this process, one of the most fascinating things is that daily expense is actually quite high. I mean, you something as basic as the meals which you take in a day at work, and then what you leave at home to look after the people at home.
The number of border borders you take.
The border borders which you take. When you get that figure together, you'll be fascinated how big the figure is. And whenever you are thinking about which changes you need to make, possibly that's where you need to make changes.
You said something earlier about putting aside money. And I see lately there are a lot of organizations online where they say you have money, you don't want to go to the bank, you have money on mobile money, you can save with us on that. And I think for a lot of people who don't have the discipline, the financial discipline to take money to the bank and just put it there, or I see these jars that people say, have a jar for this, have a jar for this. I don't know how, how what kind of discipline you need to do that, but where is the best place to put aside money?
Yeah, I think I'll touch a bit on discipline, and I'll talk about possibly the options which are available in the market. I think the first thing is that we all have discipline. The question is, discipline for what? There are people who have discipline to take 2 beers a day, and they're very disciplined. Every day they make sure the money for the beers is available. It's a kind of discipline, and they are religious about it. Actually, if it's not available, there is something which goes wrong. You may have discipline to make sure there is data on your phone every day, and that data has to be there. On that day it is not, you kind of feel like there's something wrong. I mean, when most of us, when the phone doesn't have data, you feel like you're going to miss out on opportunities, miss out on the latest. But the point is that
you lived through the months of the election when we didn't have internet, and you didn't die.
Yeah, you didn't die, but you said that was the government, and that's the government's fault. But when you think about it, we have discipline. And I think the question which you need to ask is, how can you have discipline for saving for yourself?
Yeah.
Because if you spend 3,000 shillings on data every day, rather, if you spend it daily, that means at the end of the month you have spent 90,000. Now, if you have the discipline to actually spend 90,000 in a month, can you have that same discipline to put away 90,000 in a savings account? So don't for a moment think that you can't do it. There is someone you are doing it for. The only problem is that you're doing it for someone else. For example, the mobile and data companies are excited about your discipline of spending 5,000 shillings per day. They really like a disciplined person. Actually, that's why if you are caught in a situation where you lose your phone, they do everything possible to make sure you get your phone back. And you also do everything possible to get your phone back.
And you have the option to automatically renew.
Exactly.
So you don't have to
be
disturbed.
They don't want to disturb you.
Yeah.
And they're doing everything in their power to make sure that you are comfortable in your discipline of buying data. Only that the bigger benefit of that might be the company which has given you. So the question is that I usually tell people that treat yourself like your landlord. If you have the discipline to pay rent, you can have the discipline to save. Treat yourself, include yourself in the list of expenses, and say, I am one of the expenses which I need to spend on. I will spend the same way I have a landlord who I pay 500,000 every month. I also want to pay myself 500,000 every month. I'll choose to pay it into my workplace circle. I'll choose to have a savings account in a bank. I'll choose to use one of the many insurance products that exist. Many insurance companies have options where you can be able to save. The options will never be in shortage. But where we have a problem is that most of us, our allegiance of spending is to everyone else apart from ourselves. So when you think about saving, it's just about including yourself in the list. Some people say paying yourself. It is about you saying that I'm going to put aside a certain amount of money religiously every month, every week. I mean, when you go to the villages, I've had the opportunity of working quite a bit around the country. And one of the most fascinating things is that women's group in the village. There is a sense of discipline that whether you are married or not married, whether you are working or not working, you have to come with the 2,000 every week to the group. And you find that discipline at the end of the year, actually everyone has a piece which they have put together. So we have the discipline, only that our allegiance has been to everyone else apart from ourselves.
All right. Thank you, Ronald. Let's take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We're coming to you from the Kampala Serena Conference Center, NTV Uganda studios. And we're speaking about money and managing money. And I'm with Ronald Mukasa, who is a financial literacy coach. Ronald, before we took a break, you were going to talk to us about the options for where to put your money. Yeah. Look at the different individuals that are out there, the disciplined individuals who, are disciplined with their purchase of particular items. But if I'm not going to go to the bank, honestly, all the time, but then lately people are paying you via mobile money, and before you know it, you've used all that money, and you aren't able to take some off and take it to the bank. What options are you giving us?
Yeah, I think when you think about the options, there are a couple of things you need to consider, whichever option you want to choose. The first thing is to make sure that your savings are safe. So it's important that wherever you are saving, actually, your savings are not going to burn by saving from someone where the money can disappear. So you need to ask yourself, how safe am I in this place which I have chosen to put my money? Usually you find that sometimes you have heard of cases in villages where someone comes, starts an organization, collects a lot of money, and then disappears with the money. So the first thing which you need to consider is the safety of the money which you are putting aside. And then
how do I check that safety?
I think safety, usually you will start with if it's a regulated organization, that's a good place to start. If it has laws which govern them. I mean, when you think about insurance firms, actually there are laws which govern those insurance companies, and if anything went wrong, at least you're protected by the law. If you think about a cooperative or a SACCO, there are regulations which govern them. So you want to assess that. You want to assess the leadership of that organization and know whether it's a credible leadership where you can be able to put your money. I would be a bit worried if you choose to save in an organization where we ask you where is it located, you say I don't know, but there's this guy I talk to, he passes by and he collects my money. I would tell you that you need to be quite careful. But the second thing is a place which can give you a steady and safe return. Usually when you think about your savings, the best place to start is not attempting so much to maximize the return, but make sure that you get a safe return where there is gradual growth. And many times you find that most of us, especially people who want to take your money, they excite you by a spectacular return. They say, just bring money together. If you bring it, we will give you a return of 30% per month. Then you're wondering, where exactly do they operate in this Uganda to get 30% per month? But then you find that a friend of yours has actually put money there and the money has disappeared. So you need to ask yourself, how do I have a safe return? How do I have a safe return? This organization which I'm choosing, they will give you something which seems stable. But if it is safe and it keeps coming and compounding, in the long run, it will actually give you a safe return. So when you think about the vehicles which you could consider using, usually when people are in workplaces, I encourage them to consider which organizations are within their workplace. Some workplaces have started workplace circles where members can be able to save money. I encourage people that if you have that, where the money is even deducted before you get it, use that opportunity, because for those of us who are not very disciplined in the saving, sometimes it being cut off at source is very helpful, because we can't be trusted with it for 2 days. So you need to ensure that actually it is cut at source. So if you have a workplace circle, consider it. There is also a growing movement of a number of insurance companies have come up with saving products which are helpful. Some of them are for education, some of them are for health, some of them are for a goal which you might have, and these products are actually quite helpful. And the beauty with the insurance industry, and for sure the SACCO industry, is that actually these are regulated industries, so you can be able to put your money there and then you know that it is actually safe. There are also options with a number of banks and financial institutions which you can be able to use to put money together. The tools that you can use are becoming simpler. Many of them have made it simple that you can actually use your phone to send money. I was talking to a gentleman recently who is a part of a SACCO in his village, but says, I've never actually stepped in the village. I send my money on what? On the mobile phone. And there has been innovation in that regard for people to be able to bring money together.
You spoke about the saving groups in the villages, and there's a lot of discipline there. You know, we want to know what the secret is behind that. Why do a lot of investment clubs or groups fail?
Yeah, I think if you take a basic example of a women's group in any village, it has a bit of a clarity of goals. Usually these groups come together, the women say the men are not coming home, they are marrying second wives, we need to have something which we are putting together to be able to save. So you find that they have come together with a common goal, and then they use the peer influence to be able to actually influence each other to bring money to the savings group. So you find that when I'm passing by my friend, I say, you know what, we are going to the group, you haven't brought the money which you are supposed to bring. So every time this group meets, they're reminded of how far they have gone, they're reminded of where they are going and the goals which they have. And I think that's an important thing, because you need to be in a family or in a group which has an incentive to bring money together. One of the challenges is that most of us, the groups in which we actually operate, the incentive structure is to spend. So we actually come together to see how to spend the money. And if you are coming together to see how to spend the money, a discussion of saving is a bit difficult. If people are more incentivized by a discussion on where to have the next holiday, not incentivized by a discussion of at the end of the year we will have this much money, I think there is a big challenge. So one of the things which an investment club needs to do is that clarity of purpose, to say this is the goal which we have, this is exactly where we want to go, and this is how we are going to work towards that. And then they use positive reinforcement to push the savings. Don't forget that there are very many things which can disorganize you on this journey. One of the things is that you hear, for example, an investment club discussing that we should have a party to celebrate COVID, post-COVID, we are recovering from COVID, and the party eats up all the interests and a bit of the capital. So you need to be worried if that is the conversation, because if you are hearing that conversation in your investment club, you should push it aside. The discussion should be, you know what, friends, all of us are young people. We are trying, all of us are possibly trying to access our first plot of land. Let us save towards that.
When you speak about the incentive, I think it speaks to groups come together, start saving, and say we're going to buy. They buy the land, and they leave it there. You know, because the initial goal was we're going to buy land, right? We bought the land, and then.
Yeah, I think when we think about the goal, we should set a goal which is a bit audacious, which is a big goal which challenges us. Usually I encourage investment clubs to do things which they believe they can't do at an individual level. If your personal goal is to buy an acre of land, and your investment club's goal is to buy a 50 by 100 plot, every time you're in the club, it will feel like it's a nice thing to do, but it's not a goal you want to be part of fully. So that the club needs to set a goal which challenges them, which keeps them awake. And you need, when you think about a goal which challenges, it's not a 5-year goal, it's possibly a 10-year goal, saying that within 10 years, this is where we want to be. If you tell me that, you know what, we want to get into forestry, and you say, you know what, by the end of 10 years, we want to have 200 acres under forest, and it's 10 of us, or 300 or 500 acres, or a square mile under forest. Those kind of goals, whenever you mention them to your group members, depending on the level at which you are, they will keep reminding the members that we are together because we can do more together than what we can do individually. So that needs to exist. However, if the goal is something which is easy to achieve, if you come together and you achieve your goal within 6 months, then the conversations I talked about will come in. Then they say, don't you think we should have a party for the children? Let's have a party for the children. Because the goal has actually collapsed. So you need a goal which is audacious. And the beauty is that most of the people who are taking part, most of the people who are joining these clubs have actually been exposed. They have gone to Kenya, and they have seen the amazing work which investment clubs are doing there. And you need to come back and say, you know what, I think I have been, 3 of our members are in business, but we can go big into chicken. We can go big into chicken. We need to make sure that we are pushing at a farm which not only challenges the 2 members, but also challenges all of you. And that goal, you say, all right, how are we going to get to it? The starting point is possibly to acquire the land. That's the goal for the first 2 years. After acquiring the land, we want to put together a bit of capital to be able to do this. So you kind of move towards something which is bigger. However, if that big thing doesn't exist, many times you'll start looking away on your journey.
Okay. Where do investment clubs that want to survive, you know, want to go the long haul, where do they get this kind of help?
Yeah, I think the help can be both formal and informal. Most financial institutions which run investment clubs will support you in the journey. They have information from many of them, so they are a very good place to. Your relationship manager can tell you that, you know what, I've seen what other guys are doing. It's a bit interesting. You should possibly consider it. There is a new product which you have come up with as a bank for you, for specifically the investment clubs. You should use it. So they are the formal channels which should be used. The other place where we can be able to get a lot of help is making sure that we squeeze value out of all the members. Many clubs, many people come in and they want to feed off the club, but they don't want to actually contribute to the club. So many times contribution doesn't mean just money, but it is the expertise, it is the knowledge. Sometimes you have the benefit of having someone who is a sector specialist within your club. But if his voice doesn't come through, then that advice is not taken. And it's the cheapest advice because this person is part of the group.
Yep.
So you need to ask yourself, let me try to kind of take a profile of the people who are the members of the club and add all their voices coming out.
Thinking about, for example, the period that we've been in and we're still in, COVID-19, and I know there's been a lot of discussion about the National Health Bill and so on. How do you start to think about your own health, which is really one of the key things, and you've spoken about education, but how do you start thinking about your own health insurance at a personal level if you are not employed? What are my options, you know, as opposed to me spending these exorbitant bills every time I go take my child to the hospital?
Yeah, I think it is one of the things which is such a challenge. And the challenge, I think, with health is that usually it doesn't announce when it's going to cause a problem. You arrive home and the child is indeed sick. And it is that day when you have just bought new stock and in your pocket you only have 10,000 shillings and you are hoping everything settles so that you sell the stock and money comes back. So you are a successful trader, but the truth is that at that point you have 10,000 shillings and your son is very sick. And when you reach just diagnosing the young man, they tell you that you need to pay 250,000. So you start making calls around, you start trying to collect from some of your customers, pay me right now, to be able to get through. So I think where we have to start is the appreciation of the insurance industry. I think that we are all aware that the penetration of insurance within our country as a whole is very low. And the appreciation needs to start. Most of us, when you think about the insurance systems which we use, they're what you'd call the traditional insurance systems. I have my family and friends, and when they have a problem, I will contribute to them. And when I have a problem, they'll come and contribute to me. And it certainly works in many ways, but it is a bit inefficient. Many times you don't get what you need and you don't get it in the time you need. And you start getting annoyed at your brother. This fellow, I contributed money to his problem, but now I have a bigger one and he's not even contributing. So we need to move away. So I think one of the things is just the education to understand what insurance means. That even though I'm riding a boda, actually there is a benefit in being insured. Because the biggest risk in a boda is an accident. And when accidents happen, I can't even work because I've broken the leg, I've broken the hand, which has been riding the boda. So it is that appreciation. So at an individual level, someone out there, you need to ask yourself, what's my mindset about insurance? Am I the kind of person who says, insurance, they want to steal my money? It's just coming together to manage risk together. Buying insurance as a group is always simpler. So if you're part of a circle, you can say that, you know what, every time we save money, let us actually come together and go to an insurance company and say, we want to buy a policy for our members for health. And each person will pay for 2 or 3 children, and we will pay you one check as the circle. And the members can be able to save a small amount of money every month so that you can be able to benefit from those services. So those are the conversations which are happening. Certainly there is more work which the insurance industry needs to do to be able to draw in this group of people. But even at the level which I am as a trader or as a businessman or as a boda rider, there is possibly a group I am working with where we can be able to approach the insurer and say, you know what, I want an insurance policy. Because when companies approach them, they have no problem. They'll say, you know what, how many employees do you have? You have 100 employees. Can each of them pay 400,000 for the year? Says yes. And then that's okay. So 400,000, and I'll be able to pay you one check, and I'll insure all of them. And the same is true. I might be a boda rider. I make 20,000 shillings every day. I could be able to pay possibly in a different mode. I might want to pay monthly. I might want to pay in a shorter period, so that I can't get this bulk, but I can be able to pay in a shorter period. And that's a conversation which I think is happening, which will transform and allow the people in the informal sector to have access to insurance.
Thank you very much, Ronald. Those are very insightful ideas that you're sharing with us. Let's take another short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We're getting money tips from Ronald Mukasa, who is a financial literacy coach. Thank you so much, Ronald, for taking the time to come and share, what has so far been very insightful, at the very least for me. You're employed or you're unemployed, and you just want to get smarter about money, how you handle it, how to make it or get it. Where do you start from?
Yeah, I think where you exactly start is to kind of fully understand what kind of money blueprint do I have? What are my expectations? What am I looking out for? Many times when you ask people that, what does, for example, financial independence mean to you? Most of us haven't answered that question. We haven't answered. So if you are currently working and you want to get to a point where you are not going to a 9-to-5 job, what kind of money do you need to be coming in per month for you to be able to be comfortable? Most people will give you an astronomical figure. They will tell you that, for me to stop working, I need to earn 30 million per month. Then you say, so are you currently earning 30 million per month? You say, no, I'm earning just 2 million. They say, but are you surviving? You say, I'm surviving. But then why do you need 30 million to be stable? See, but that's the only money I feel like I can be safe about. So it's about saying that, let me just work out. And the starting point is knowing where you are in money. No, we talked about the budget earlier. It's very important to know where you are. To say that these are my expenses. These are my monthly expenses. At the very least, every month, I want to bring in 1.5 million. Those are the expenses I have. If you know that the figure of expenses is 1.5, then you will make the case that actually all the money which I am currently earning, I'm earning as a result of my salary. So you say my salary is currently 1 million, for example. So I'm struggling. If your salary is below your expenses, you have two choices. Can you increase how much money comes in, or can you be able to reduce the expenses you're having? That is a decision you need to make. So set something challenging. You say, what, my skills, that's where I think I can be able to earn an extra income, and I have set up this thing and I want to earn that. Some people may say that, what, mine is different. I want to be able, I come from Kabale, they sell a lot of Irish. I say I'm going to set a target that I'll order for 2 sacks of Irish from my auntie in the village, and I will sell them amongst my friends. I can receive passion fruits from Mbale, and I will sell them to my what? To my workmates. And that's the enterprise you have started. And it is if it gives you, if you get those sacks at 300,000 and you make 400,000 out of it, there has been growth, and quite a significant growth. And those small baby steps, you need to appreciate them, but also more importantly, learn. So that you say that I ordered for this Irish, but it turns out people don't like them that much. I thought I would make money out of them, but I didn't. I ended up eating them alone. So you say that I have learned that lesson. So you need to say, which place can I be able to enter to be able to build my income? So income is one of the lines which you need to look at. For expenses, you need to ask yourself, which expenses can I be able to change quickly? This is a period of making tough decisions. It's a period of saying that, what, I possibly need to step out of this to be able to remain afloat. So what are you going to be able to step out of? And usually the challenge with stepping out of things is that we have attachment to them. You have your car, you like driving it, people are used to you and your car, so you don't know how they will react if you sold the car and you got a smaller one, or you change it to a motorcycle. The reaction is just going to be different. But those are the decisions you're making. So if you are out there and you're saying, I need to start making steps, each decision you are going to make is going to change or push you out of your comfort zone. On the side of income, whatever you start, make sure that you don't forget that it will start slowly, and appreciate the small steps.
Every time you say these things, Ronald, it feels like common sense. You know, it feels like I'm telling you these things. Why aren't people doing them? But there's the aspect of habit, and you know how difficult it is to break that. Somebody has grown up spending a certain way. They've grown up accustomed to a certain kind of lifestyle. They're used to things a certain way, and now you're asking them to make the hard decisions very fast. How do you break habits?
I think when you think about and you raise a very important point, because the truth is that it's quite straightforward. It's not rocket science at all. However, when you look at the aspect of habit, one of the greatest incentives of changing habit is if you are angry enough. So it usually is a very personal thing. It is someone akoyembera, for lack of a better word. It's you getting into a situation where you say, I need to step out of this. For example, if you are a person who is perpetually in debt, you need to get to a point and say, one of these days I should get my pay slip and it is not full of debts I am repaying. And so you need to reach that place. So you need first of all accept that this is where I am. Every time this message can be responded to by someone saying, that's really a nice thing to do. But if you haven't reached that point, usually you won't be able to cross over.
The message is not for you yet.
Yeah, it's not for you yet. You will say, oh, this is a very good thing to do. But you need to reach that point for yourself. And it could be with debt, it could be with your income. It's sometimes someone just looking at, you have had this boss, he's very annoying, but you have no choice. You have to come and work for him every day. And even your boss knows it, that this fellow has nowhere where he can go. He will keep coming. So when you reach that point where you say, one of these days, I need to get out of this situation, then you start making the steps. The moment you do that, then decide, where do you want to go? Do you have a clear picture of what success means to you? Some people, they really have no problem with the amount they're earning, but they have a problem with how much time they put in to earn that amount. Yeah. And they want just a bit of freedom. And you say that for me is success. I don't want to be the richest man in Kampala, but I want to be able to have a bit of that freedom. So you define it for yourself, and it will be different for each person. And there are a number of people who can help you in this process to actually get into that conversation.